Okay, good morning. For the record, I'm Chris Young, Chair of the HDC's SAC. Confirm access. Aye. Kevin. We don't have audio at the moment.
Oh, aye.
Okay, thanks. And Paul.
Aye.
Okay, and Billy said for staff.
Here.
This open meeting of the HDC's SAC is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. That order posted with materials for this meeting, public bodies to convene remotely so long as public access to deliberations is reasonably provided. This meeting is convening via Zoom with video and audio recording, which will be available on the town's YouTube channel. We will allow public comment. Materials provided to members for the meeting or provided during the meeting are, unless otherwise noted, available on the town's website. During the meeting, I'll introduce agenda topics and speakers. Please remember to Zoom audio until your name is called and direct questions through the chair to avoid crosstalk and make the taking of minutes easier. Votes will be conducted by roll call. With that said, order 9-3 on February 7th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Paul, are you in favor?
Aye.
Evan?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, guys. Do we not have minutes? We do have minutes from December and 20th and January 10th. Do we have any comments on those, or do we want a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thanks, Paul. Kevin, you're in favor?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Do we have any commissioners' comments? Okay. Kevin, do you?
Oh, no, none for me. Thanks.
Okay. Do we have anybody here for public comment that isn't related to an agenda application? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. So Remain at 54 Main Street is applying for lighting to be added to the Mitchell sign. Is anybody on for Remain?
Yes, good morning. I am Ann Doherty.
Hi, Ann. How are you? So
I'm well, thank you.
Do you want to introduce us to your application? Give us a background.
Yes, absolutely. Last year we took the Mitchell sign down, and it was down for several months, and it was lovingly repainted and completely restored, brightened up, and then replaced back where it used to be. And we would love to be able to illuminate it so that on these days when the days are short and the nights are long, that it sort of brightens up Main Street. And our property managers researched just a very sleek sign, a sleek lighting that would just come down either side of the that would just come down either side of the extension that holds the sign and illuminate the large oval bit on both sides.
Thank you. We'll open this for commissioner comments. Kevin, do you want to start?
Yeah. This sign is one of the most iconic signs in town. It's been grandfathered in with its exceptions of the of the dangling signs. And I feel that because it is so iconic, it should remain as it is. I feel that the lighting fixtures proposed are too contemporary, and I think they're inappropriate. When you approach that sign on foot, you're looking up. The proposed light would pretty much hit you in the face. I guess I feel that it has survived and been successful this long. Part of its history is the fact that it wasn't illuminated And therefore, I am not in favor of this proposal. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Paul?
I can't disagree with Kevin, but I don't feel strongly about it one way or another.
Okay, and a couple questions I would have just to make sure that we're meeting the, or extending a complete application up to the board for review is that, is Mitchell's open beyond, or is it open evening hours, when this light would be utilized?
No, it's in the winter months, the hours are 11 to 5. But it is, you know, one of the stores in town that is open year round. I know Wendy Hudson also has some lighting above each picture window either side of the front door that you know brings a little brightness to some of the books that are in the windows, which she changes on a pretty regular basis. So you know there probably is the you know occasional evening reading or lecture or book signing, but the winter hours are typically 11 to 5.
Okay, because one of the first things that it talks about in the guidelines for lighting is that it assigns illuminated for business to operate after sunset. So it's really meant to advertise in the off hours, you know, eliminate signs that are representing open businesses. So that would be something that would be a block with this.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Would you mind repeating those guidelines?
Absolutely. So on page 3 of the sign book, it does say that for lighting, and I'll just read it out. A sign may be illuminated for business operating after sunset, indicating that it is meant to be there for open hours, you know, lighting the sign during open hours. So I think that would be something worth considering, that this is really might not be meeting those guidelines.
Okay.
I
didn't. I'm sorry. I wasn't aware of that, and I've seen lights. I don't know if they're on in the evening time, but I have seen lights on other signs up and down Main Street. So I assume
and that's
okay.
possible. You know, some stores are open late. Some stores might have had lights. You know, there's a lot of different situations that could have resulted in lights being on signs, but through the application process, we would just have to be wary of that.
Sure. No, I respect that.
So our job here is to send a recommendation to the HDC for tonight's meeting. It sounds like, you know, given the hours, I would have a hard time with it. Kevin sounds like he has a hard time. We'll make a motion for what recommendation we'll send up. Would somebody like to do that?
Okay. I know Wendy will be disappointed. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of these rules.
Understood. Yeah, no, I understand. You could hold for revisions. I mean, if you want to go back and discuss with Wendy, but I don't know how that would change what it sounds like the opinion of the board is. But
okay. So you're honing to the rules, which are illumination is allowed on signs if it's you know sort of aesthetically appropriate, but also if it helps with evening hours. So like a restaurant, you know, like the Beat or something, for example.
Yeah. I mean, I think it doesn't have to be a restaurant specifically, but businesses that are open after sunset is the intent of the signs. Not to have. I'm speaking personally. I think that the idea is that they don't want Main Street or any of downtown signage lit up, indicating businesses could be open when they're not.
Okay.
Chris, I think it's also the fact that
Kevin.
I think it's also the fact that you know, Main Street. Our job is to protect the architecture, and at night that's just as important as it is during the day. And if we were to have all these signs proliferate, at night, it would completely change the character. I just also to remind the board is that new lighting that was proposed, for the bank, for Bank of America, was not approved. Also on those reasons that it just isn't appropriate for that, for the age of these buildings. So.
Oh, that's good to know, because it was just sort of to help me fill out the application. I was provided copies of that Bank of America application, so that was not approved.
No.
Okay.
No. So I mean, I'm happy to make a motion to deny. I don't think a revision is appropriate. I just, this sign, you did a great job refurbishing it. The colors are far brighter than probably would be approved today. I do think that the windows do attract business. I live in town. I'm glad it's open. I feel it's, very inviting.
Mhm.
And I think the street is well lit up on that corner. So I'm happy to make a motion. It would be a motion to deny unless the applicant wants to withdraw or,
Okay.
save the time for the board.
I know you want to move along, but Kevin, speaking of the colors, we actually, they had faded appreciably, but those are the exact same paint colors that were on the sign previous. They really had faded quite dramatically. You can actually kind of see when you look at the sign over the window, the long sign, the quarter board over the window, that's the original color. Or in the oval sign is the original cover that the color that the quarter board should be.
Yeah, I think my point was that it was grandfathered in with those colors. Those colors today, if it were a new application, would probably need to be toned down. So
Got you. Do I need, we're thinking of brightening up the quarter board that sits over the front door and the front windows. Is that something that we need to go through the sign committee to do to brighten that up or to restore it?
You don't, as long as you're replacing, just refurbishing it, like you say, as long as you're not changing the color or changing the layout.
Okay.
So
I think we have a motion. Or Kevin, was that an official motion that you?
Well, it was just a question, I guess, if the applicant wants to withdraw it, or I can make a motion to deny, but it's your choice.
I would need to go back to Cecil and then talk to Wendy Hudson. And I don't understand the ramifications of withdrawing versus being denied.
Okay. Should we make a proposal to hold for more information, perhaps? That
you and the chance to go back and talk to your board so that you're not stuck with a denial, which would sort of hinder a reapplication process potentially. So I would say, why don't we, for revisions, giving you the chance to discuss with them, unless doesn't sound like a simple revisiting this would help, but at least it gives you a chance to go back and discuss with them and have the application remain open.
Okay. Thank you.
So there'll be no action today. So Kevin, you want to hold for revisions?
Yes. That's my motion.
Second.
Okay. Thank you,
And
Paul.
if
Kevin, you in
the
favor? Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
And if
Go ahead before we vote. Go ahead.
if we decide to do nothing, then we just do nothing, or do I need to notify Billy or?
Notify Billy just to withdraw the application. I think that would close it out. At least it won't die due to lack of activity. It'll be officially closed.
Okay.
Okay. So we have the motion that's been seconded. Kevin, are you in favor?
All right.
And Paul?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Ann.
I just wanted to add that I really appreciate you guys coming by with it, because a lot of people try to sneak the signs up and then we have to try to find a way to remove them. So thank you for coming by with it, even though I'm sure it's not what you wanted to hear.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your help.
Thank you.
Right. We'll move on to the next application, which is Akatak LLC at 7A Bayberry Court. And this is one where the applicant's traveling, so we're just going to look at it ourselves. This is for Christie's to move into. Yes, go ahead, Kevin.
1 second before you open this, is Paul going to sit on this? I don't know.
Correct.
He has already shared his design with the condominium association, and that they've approved it.
Okay, so you are going to sit on this.
I can, yeah, sure. I don't.
Okay, all right. Sorry.
Although you know what,
No.
I'm not sure that's what we saw.
Okay. Well,
I would have said something about the phone number and all that.
so, yeah,
So
Paul,
maybe
if
I,
you don't
well-
sit on it, then we'd have to hold for the quorum.
yeah, I mean, now that I see this, I thought, that's not what I thought we saw before. Are there any
Okay.
other design?
Let's hold this for lack of quorum, just
Yeah.
because with any question, I don't want
Yeah, okay,
to
good.
raise a problem. So, Billy, we'll have to just hold this until the next meeting. Do we have to make a motion on that, Billy, or is that just something that we do? I mean, we don't have a quorum, we can't make a motion. Right?
Yeah, we can just hold for a lack of a quorum on it.
Okay. All right, thanks. So we'll move to the Nantucket Athenaeum. And we have Ann Scott representing the new signs or sign.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, Ann.
I just to give you a little summary of what we've been discussing, the Athenaeum has applied to replace a freestanding public information sign that was in place as recently as 2011 from the photographs that we've been able to document. It was on the front lawn, and its goal was to let the public know that we were a library. This elegant building can be imposing to some, and we just want to make it clear that we provide public service and that no one is denied access. And we have found that's a hurdle to some libraries in general, but in particular to a building of this nature. It was removed. It was beyond the ability to be refurbished, and we've put some drawings in the application that show that it would be a sign of the same design with the same dimensions placed on the same location on the lawn. Couple of changes that we talked about at the last meeting are just the change in the wording on the sign that says free to all, which is meant to indicate that the library is a place for everyone at no cost, at no additional cost to anyone who's a member of the community. And I believe that there was a question at the last meeting around whether or not there was some plan in place when we put the post signs there at the end of the walkway, whether or not those were both allowed at the same time. And what we've been able to see in the photographs is that the post signs and the freestanding sign were in place at least from the period from 2007 to 2011. And we've been able to find, we really haven't been able to find any record that shows that there was a compromise that we would have removed the post signs. So I think that's the new information that we're sharing today. And I just want to say hi to Nat too, and thank you so much for being here today as the vice president of our board and in support of this public information sign.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, the library is a wonderful building, much revered in the community, but for many people, particularly if they're new to the island, they don't recognize it as a library. And this sign, which I've been on the island now for 37 years, for the vast majority of that sign was a historic part of this historic building. And I think it served a vital purpose, and the Athenaeum, as it tries to go into the future and bring a new generation of Nantucketers along, needs to have. I think this sign would really help it in bringing in a new generation to appreciate that it is a public library.
Okay, thank you two. Paul, do you want to start the conversation?
Yes, thank you. I appropriate to replace it as it's shown here in this picture. Can we zoom in and see what the wording is on this picture? Okay, so it says Athenaeum and Library. It doesn't say free to all, which I think is inappropriate. There has to be other ways to get the word out that it's free to the kids today. You're competing, by the way, with electronic libraries, but I think this sign is fine, the old one. I think the fact that it says free to all is inappropriate.
Okay, thanks, Captain.
Yeah, my comments are the same as last time. Our guidelines are pretty clear that freestanding signs are to be discouraged. I understand this was there, it was taken down, that it was taken down for a period of time, that it no longer qualifies as an existing grandfathered sign. I understand what they're trying to accomplish with the messaging. However, I feel that again is not part of the guidelines of our sign. Our sign guidelines call to indicate where, what the business is or what the, occupant is, not, any other information. I do think that the signs that were allowed at the entry post are more than enough to accommodate this message, even if they were to expand those signs and maybe put the free to all block, underneath those, or on top of them, whatever. I just think there's another way to solve this without having to rely on the fact that it was in some old photos. It was clearly not built at the time that the building was built and was an addition somewhere along the way. And I really believe that it's our job to remove these extraneous freestanding signs. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. I have mixed feelings about it. One thing regardless of whether it's appropriate as a freestanding sign, if it were considered appropriate or the board voted for it to be approved, I'd like to make sure that we it should be real as it once was. The new design is contemporary in the sense that it has the posts wider than the sign with those sort of what looks to be sort of rod brackets holding the box suspended. I don't think that contemporary design element should be considered. The old sign had the integral with actual box. I think that's an important detail to replicate if the HDC decides to vote in favor of this. So that's one concern I have, is that we don't head into a more contemporary design in any way. I feel like it's probably being over emphasized, the importance of this. I don't think it's going to have the impact, but I'm not sure that's our our purview. It's a public information sign as it's being applied for. So we can let I think we let the HDC weigh in on their opinion here. I think I would side with Paul and say we should vote that this could be appropriate as a public information sign. I'd like the board to take it under serious consideration. I hope that they do. Listening to your concerns, Kevin, because I also see where it's an extraneous sign that only a few places downtown have, mostly the churches. And it could be argued that this is a public, just as important a public venue as a church. So I just want to make sure that we don't end up with a contemporary looking sign. I think the free to all is a message. It doesn't need to be there. Library is really what I agree with that thought, that that's sort of putting a slogan out there on a sign that doesn't need to have it. You could put that message inside the window box or on the menu box rather. It doesn't have to be a permanent piece of this. So those are my thoughts. I will, before we make a motion, Ann or Nat, do you guys want to make any comment? And then we'll go back to the board.
What I hear from all of you sounds absolutely reasonable to me. I think I personally like the way it was, so I would agree that going back to that would be fine. And if that's, I think we're fine with that. And we just really appreciate your listening.
Absolutely. I would second that. And I think, we'd be happy to make modifications that would, be the right ones, just to be respectful of that. And I think the design with the post on the side was intended just to create more sturdiness so that the sign wouldn't fall into disrepair as quickly. But I agree. I think that the aesthetic could really be improved by keeping it the way that it was. I will say that the post signs do serve a purpose for people that are familiar with the Athenaeum and walking by and looking to see what programs are coming up. However, they aren't really, that if you're standing on the street and you're walking by, the information on those post signs is not highly visible. We don't really have anything that stands out that really tells the public who we are, that we're a public library, and that's the information that we're trying to share.
Yeah, and I would just say I personally have never stopped to look at what's on those post signs. It just sort of blends in like wallpaper. And I really appreciate the point that the churches have these, and this was the location originally of a church, and I think the purpose of this building is in line with a mission that is really appealing to the spiritual and intellectual side of a community. So I think I agree with that line of reasoning.
Yes.
Okay. Paul, do you have any follow-up comments or?
No,
Okay, and Kevin?
I understand where everybody's settling in on this, and I do agree that going with the original post structure would be more appropriate. I guess the only question that remains for me is that, should this move ahead, is exactly it is. Let's see. The question is that the best? Is that the best location for it on that lawn? It's a little hard for me to tell from here. Is that halfway up the lawn? Is it right up to the edge of the fencing there? I'm just not quite sure where it is. If it's too far back, you're not going to be able to read what's in the box. So I just have a little bit of question about exactly where it's going and if that's the best place for it. Maybe it should be more towards the entrance. I'm not, it's a little unclear to me if that, I understand that's where it was. That's just a question. I still feel, however, that there's a better way to get that message across than putting a freestand sign out there. So, but I'm happy to make a motion to hold for revisions.
Okay, and your suggestion for revisions is more clarity on the location and the signposts.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay, so Ann and Nat, we're gonna vote on this motion, but to be, this will hold it. It won't go to the HDC's meeting tonight. This motion passes, and just ask for some more clarity on look. I think that before we vote, I'd like to say, look, I agree, location is going to become important because if it's too close to the fence, it will look awkward and be out of keeping with sort of other freestanding signs like this. And if it's too far back, it's ineffective. So part of our motion, I'd like to just amend and say that we'd like to have a post put in place, or, just a marker in place so that we can go and see where it's being proposed. I think that's an important, piece, as opposed to on the site plan, which doesn't indicate exactly its location relative to the fence and the plantings. So,
Would you also need new drawings?
a drawing that just shows the posts as they're being proposed. I think it doesn't have to be, you could probably mock up the drawings you have, just, by sort of, for lack of, whiting out, if you will, the posts and just redrawing them below the box. I think something that indicates we have the picture, so we know what it looks like, but something that just indicates what's being proposed. This is a sensitive application that will, no doubt have some scrutiny at the HDC level too. So we want to make sure it's the best and complete application possible when it ends up there. So,
Understand.
okay, so we have the motion to hold for revisions. That was seconded. Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks, Ann and Nat. Appreciate your continuing to work with us on this, and hopefully we're making progress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. We have enforcement is the next item on the agenda. Billy, you're back with us. How's it going?
It's going well. We we keep enforcement on there as a placeholder for every meeting, but every picture you guys have been sending, I've been reaching out to the business owners, and I mean, most of them have been taken down when I receive pictures from Paul or Mark. I try to follow up on them as much as possible. There's a couple out there that I've recently sent letters for, so I typically give a 2-week time period for a response before going further with anything, and I'm waiting on a couple of responses right now.
Okay, great. Board members, do you have any specific questions, Kevin?
Yeah, I apologize. I know that I owe you some pictures. I'm wondering, Billy, if you could send out an updated sheet of what you're working on, so I don't duplicate any of it.
Yep. I sent it after last meeting, and I think I have a few updates from the previous couple weeks, so I'll resend it again this week. And then I had a quick question for you guys with the Athenaeum. I can reach out to Ann if she's going to put a marker in the lawn there, and I'll just give you guys an email and let you know it's there. Go ahead and view it.
That would be helpful. Thanks.
Okay.
It might be helpful to let the HDC members know as well, because if it makes it through a Tuesday morning meeting and goes to the Tuesday night meeting, they wouldn't really have a chance to react. And so you might, I don't know how that process works, but giving them a heads up that there's an application that will be coming forth with that marker in place, just so that they have a couple days notice or whatever notice they can take advantage of.
I can make mention of it tonight when I tell them the, the status of the 3 applications that you guys just reviewed, and basically just let them know I'll follow up later once it's ready for reviewing.
I think that's smart, so that they're not, unaware. That's
Okay.
great. Paul, did you have any comments on enforcement or other questions?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
All right. That gets
Motion to
us,
adjourn.
thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Kevin, you in favor?
Aye.
Paul, you in favor?
Aye.
I'm in favor. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good week,
Bye-bye.
guys.